Hello, and welcome back to episode 3 of We Love Dogs with me, Cheryl.
And me, Caroline.
So, in today's episode, we thought that we would have a discussion around quite a big topic, I think. So, adolescence, or as some people say, teenage stage of dogs' development. Um, yeah, this is quite a stressful time for dog owners and dogs. So, we thought this would be quite an important one today to talk about. So obviously adolescence, what is it really? Um, well, it is a period when your puppy is transitioning into an adult. But it's the stuff that comes with that. So I always find, Caroline, and I don't know if you find this, that a lot of my clients that come to puppy classes actually have no idea about the adolescent stage or what their
No,
pup's going to go through. Um,
no. I get phone
so
calls sometimes around that time, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like I've taught them nothing, or their recall or their loose lead has gone out the window, and they're really stressing the poor clients. I'm like, it's because they've reached adolescence. They need your help now more than ever, and your patience.
mhm. Yes. Yeah, and I that's one thing. I mean, I know myself before I become a trainer, I honestly didn't really know about it either. I didn't know this was a phase that, I won't say a phase, but it's time in their life and their development that they go through. Um, and I do have a lot of people that come to classes saying they don't know. So I do always try and add it in quite a bit in my puppy classes that this will crop up and it is normal. But kind of like we said before with the puppies, kind of giving them that little head start of what to expect and
Absolutely. I do
the
as well.
challenges.
Yeah, I always say to them, like, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just saying it so you're forewarned. So
Mm.
I mean, not all of them go through the testing stage, but a lot do. So I say, at least if you know that this may happen, you then think, nope, they're completely normal. And if anything, you
Yeah.
just need to bring everything back to basics again and help them because they're processing so much. They're over processing, in fact. So yeah, I always warn all of my clients.
Yes, me too. I do try and make it like one of the sort of top priorities that, because a lot of dogs come to classes and they do amazing
Yeah.
and their recall's great and they're focusing on their owners. They're giving, they're doing all those lovely things. They're even walking lovely on a lead. Um, and I do just try and be completely honest. And I don't, like you say, I don't want to scare them. Um, but I think it's important because rescues are seeing a lot of dogs around that adolescent stage, aren't they now? That's when they're
Yeah.
coming in for
Yeah.
rehoming.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a struggle. So, I mean, obviously with your two, you've been through it
Well,
or going
yeah, I
through
mean,
it.
I've got Lulu, so she is 2 and 4 months now. She must be, yeah. So she's just coming out of that adolescent stage. I wouldn't say she's fully out though. I mean, some dogs they can be 3 years old, believe it or not,
Yeah.
before they really do reach that total mature stage. So she's not totally out of it. But then I've got Suki, who is 19 months. And she's definitely in that teenage stage. Absolutely. She's the testing stage. She wants to be into everything. Um, she doesn't, I mean, Lulu did want to go that little bit further and investigate things sometimes. So we really had to watch her recall and had her back on a long line a couple of times. Um, yeah, Suki's not done that. So it's really weird. I mean, different breeds, you get different things anyway. But yeah, they've both gone through different kind of teenage phases, but definitely teenage phases, my two. So yeah,
Yeah.
tricky testing times.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me with Joey, honestly, I think he went through his till about 3.
Mm,
And he was on a long line for probably about 2 years. And that's not
yeah.
even a joke. Like
Mm,
literally because he didn't want to come back. And I'd worked so hard on his recall as a puppy, and it kind of all went out of the window. Um, so I suppose for people that don't know about adolescence, kind of letting them know when it's going to start. That's a good one
yeah.
to start off with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I always say between 6 months and 18 months, again, depending on the breed, depending on the size of the dogs. The bigger ones, they're slower
mm,
um, to hit adolescence, and then it lasts a bit longer for them than it does for the little ones generally.
yeah,
Um, I mean, Lulu, I would say she hit adolescence. She's lab. Um, I'd say about 7 months, she
Yeah.
really started to hit adolescence, and she's just started calming down completely. So yeah, but
And
we're
then,
still
and I
in it.
suppose, yeah, and it's like you say, I think it's to do with breed size as well. Does have a and breed just in general. There's lots of different things, but sort of rough ages between 6 months up to 2 years, basically that it can
Yeah, yeah,
go on for. It seems like a long time, and that's what I say to people because I sometimes say to them, "You could go through this till they're about 2," and they look at me with like dread and fear, and like you think it's just that little bit of time. And if you've done all the right stuff with them in that period, they're going to come out of it and be, hopefully a nice, rounded, mature dog.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
It
it
is
is,
just bringing things back to basics, isn't it? And helping them and being
mm,
patient. And it is the same kind of things, not to humanize them, but like our teenagers go through exactly
yeah,
the same kind of behaviors. They've got these hormones going through them suddenly. They don't know how to act. They're trying to process things. They think they're big boys and girls, but in actual fact,
hmm,
they need our help more than ever. They get braver. So with the teenagers, they might start pushing the boundaries and going
yeah,
out more and places they're not allowed to go. With the dogs, they might start roaming more, becoming more impulsive, exactly like our teenagers. And it's, yeah, but do you find as well, when you look back, the time does actually go really, really quickly. It's kind
yeah,
of like it is a testing stage, but then before you know it, they're through it. And with all of ours, I mean, we've had a few dogs now. With all of ours, getting them through that period has been like it's the dog you get at the end. So if you can just keep in your head, this is just a phase. That's what I'm trying to say, and it does
yeah,
get better, and they're completely normal. And you're going
yeah,
to feel sometimes overwhelmed because it's really
yeah.
testing, isn't it? It is, no matter
It
which way you
is.
look at it.
I know. And I think I do refer to people, especially people that have got children. Please, like, think back when your child was a teenager. I remember, especially with my son, maybe it's a bit different with boys and girls, but I had those typical teenage behaviors I had to cope with,
Yeah,
and they come through it, don't they? He's now a young adult, and they come through it, but it's a lot with how we deal with them during that period.
yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah,
how it is with our dogs.
yeah.
So I think, as well, like people don't understand why this is happening to their dog. They haven't got any idea. Like I didn't before I knew anything about dogs. Um, so like you touched on there, their hormones, that's all
Mm,
changing, isn't it? So
mm.
you can imagine a young teenage boy what his hormones are like. Um, and that all entwines with their growth and their sexual maturity, so becoming mature. And also it affects all their brain. So
Yeah,
they're not doing it just to be really annoying and get on our nerves. It's literally they can't help what's happening to the changes within their body
yeah,
and their
yeah,
brains and the emotions.
yeah.
Um,
Exactly that. They
so
can't regulate their emotions. So they, in the end, they're in actual fact where they can't regulate their emotions. They're wanting to do all these things, but they can't because it's either dangerous or we don't want them just
mm,
obviously roaming off and things like that. So some dogs, they then become frustrated. So then
yes,
that can cause problems where they may jump or they may bark more, things like that. So again, what I find works with my clients is explaining to them exactly the phase that their dog is in and then looking at the reasons why they're doing the behaviours, not thinking to themselves, well, I just want to stop these behaviours
yeah,
because it's all very well just stopping them doing these, but we're not actually helping them with if it's that
no,
frustration, if it is that they're actually over processing, if they also go through the fear periods as well around that time, the six
yeah,
month
that's
mark
yeah,
sometimes. So it may be that kicking in a bit. So quite often people might say, oh my God, suddenly they're getting reactive, when in actual fact it could be that they're getting frustrated, it could be that they're a little bit more scared and things like that. So
yeah,
I try to get my clients to actually see it from their dog's point of view. And like
yeah,
you've just said there, look at it like our teenagers. I know they're human, but
yeah,
it is the same kind of phase and all the same kind of feelings. And 9 times out of 10, when I explain that to clients, it's kind of like they're like, oh, yeah, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying now. And when they know their dog is actually normal, I find that then they're
yeah,
able to, their frustration comes down, their feeling of being overwhelmed comes down, and it makes it easier for them to help them as well
yeah.
to feel better about all the things they're reacting to, whatever they're doing. Um, yeah. And it helps me as well. In all honesty, like we said in our other episodes, we're trainers, but we see things
Mm,
sometimes and we're like, why are they doing that? And then when we think, oh, actually, right, I know why this is happening, we need to look at what they need from us at the moment to help them.
yeah,
And I think that's so
yeah.
important to look at the needs that they've got at that time and how we can help them with those needs, not just think, right, they're being naughty, because they're not 9 times out of 10. Dogs aren't being naughty per se. They don't think like that. In actual fact, they're struggling with something. They need
Yes.
our help.
Yeah. And like what you said, the fear period's a massive important one as well.
Yeah,
Because if they are going through that period and they're kind of saying, no, no, don't want this, don't like this, and then they're being kind of pushed into doing that during that period, you can only
yeah,
imagine things are going to get a lot worse. So it is education, knowing when they're going to
mm,
be going through this. Um, that's why I always say, get the help of a trainer, get a trainer on side because they're gonna guide you through how to help your dog. And it's you've put it into words perfectly there as well. It's we need to understand them and we need to just be thoughtful of what they're going through. That makes
yeah,
sense. And yeah, and we've all been teenagers ourselves, you know.
yeah.
I know for some of us, mine seems a long time ago now when I was a teenager. And you do sometimes forget that phase, but when you do think back to it, gosh, it's a hard time, isn't it? Those
Exactly.
emotions,
Yeah,
all those things going on around you in the world. You're
yeah,
learning new stuff. You're like we said with the dogs, they're just becoming mature, they're becoming adults.
yeah,
Um, so it's that support. Like as a parent, you would have I hope that I did and supported my kids as much as I could through that
mm,
period.
mm,
Um,
mm,
yeah, so I do see it. I do see it a lot. 9 times out of 10, if somebody contacts me for one-to-one help, the dog is usually an adolescent stage. It'll be that between 6 and 2 years, 6 months
yeah,
and 2 years. Um, and again, like you say, it's sometimes it's just going out and explaining to their owners. We need to step back, look at what's going on, and
yeah,
see how we can make it a little bit easier for the dogs. We might have to
yeah,
go back to when they were puppies,
yeah,
start everything again.
yeah.
Um,
I say to
but
people,
for
never ever
me,
be scared of going
yeah,
back to basics.
no,
Never.
it's important. I've done it with Joey. Like I said to you, he was on a line to start. Obviously, when I was trying to work on recall, we got to a really good point. He was off the line, and then one day I was out on a walk, and it just all went backwards. And my responsibility as his owner was to keep him safe. And by allowing him to keep running off, I wasn't helping him.
No,
So it was come
no.
back down to the kind of management. And he went on a line, a long training line, connected to his harness and everything, kept him safe. But it really drilled in that the behaviours that I wanted him to learn while he was going through that hard stage.
Yeah,
And I just stopped him practicing the stuff that I didn't want him to do.
yeah,
And that's simple, isn't it? Pop them on a line.
yeah,
I had to think
absolutely.
about his safety plus everyone else out.
Yeah, and not wanting practicing them behaviours because the more he practices going over to all of these people, dogs, wherever he was going, the more it's getting reinforced with him. So
Yeah,
yeah, never ever be scared to go back to using long lines, and especially like we were saying, especially around that stage, that adolescent stage, because you'll get some where they're, as I say, they're reaching sexual maturity and they're thinking, right, well, let's go and check out that dog over there,
mm,
kind of thing, and things like that, and wanting to roam around, looking more, they're getting braver. So there's all these things, and of course, like we were saying about the fear periods, if something spooks them around that time as well,
yeah,
they can just run. So always watch your dog, watch their body language. And if you see they are starting
yeah,
to test boundaries, bring things down and help them. Don't wait. What I get a lot of calls about as well is people will leave this kind of behaviour and the dogs would have then practiced. So if they've got
Yeah.
brave, they're adolescent, they've started running over to all the dogs. So that's got reinforced as well. But instead
Mm.
of backtracking and putting them back on a long line, bringing them back to base as their recall, by the time some people call me, it's like 3 months, sometimes longer down the line. So it's
Yeah.
a lot to undo. And the dog, in actual fact, wasn't being naughty per se. All they were doing was thinking, whoa, I'm feeling really brave. Oh, that dog smells nice. I'm going to go and see them. And they can smell dogs, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, a mile off, can't they, with the
Yeah.
hormones coming
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of them? So, yeah, and their noses are going mad. So, of course, they want to investigate. So yeah,
Yes.
we really do, and do things to help them. So if you have got a dog who you're thinking, well, they really want to investigate, they really want to look around more, use the long line. They can then
Yeah.
roam around then and do more, or higher fields where they
Yeah.
can be off. They can really run, get that out of themselves. Do sniffy games with them in that field so you feed that need. So there's all these different ways you can help your dog with this as
Yeah.
well. If it is
Yeah.
what I find with some dogs when they're adolescent, they build up frustration and they can start barking at other dogs on walks as
Yes.
well.
See that a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it can be because they're just interested in the dog. Sometimes it can be where they're interested because they can smell a female or whatever. But with some dogs, where again, it's just getting practiced and practiced, or the owner's taking them over to the other dogs all the time. So then their dogs think,
Hmm.
well, that's my thing to do now. I've done it with George all those years ago, pre my training. By the time the owners then contact me, we've got a highly frustrated dog who's been practicing behaviours.
Yeah.
Um, and it's harder. It's harder to undo.
Yes.
So it really is. So I say to people, if they know about that adolescent stage and all the things that can happen, they've got that in their heads, they can help their dogs at the first time they see all
Mm.
these things occurring. And I know
Yeah.
I've mentioned his book before, but I do think, and we don't get paid anything for mentioning these books, so I know we're IMDT, but the Easy Peasy Doggy Squeezy book goes into
Yeah.
adolescence. And instead of
Yes.
being, you can buy some marvelous books on adolescence, don't get me wrong, but with that one, I find that it's more simplified for everyday families. And if they've got teen
Mm.
kids or kids who do read the more adult books kind of thing, it's an easy read for them as well. So I
Yeah.
think if you just want a basic about adolescence, just so you can understand your dog and the reason why they're doing these behaviours, that's a good one to get. Easy peasy doggy squeezy. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Obviously he's got easy peasy puppy
Puppy
squeezy,
squeezy. Yeah. Yeah.
which was the obviously I read that so many times. And then read that one, the doggy squeezy one. Um, but you just touched on there about dogs wanting to go over to other dogs. And for me, that's something I try and educate owners around from puppy class about.
Yeah.
Try not to allow your dog to do that, because they then expect and they don't understand. When they get to that adolescent stage, they're a lot bigger, they're a lot
Yep.
stronger. And like we say, they become different. They become like more overstimulated and stuff when they're adolescent. So you can imagine sometimes when they greet other dogs, it's not the most polite when they're in that
Exactly.
stage. So
Yeah.
if they've already got that expectation from being a puppy that they say hello to every dog, when they're these big, bouncy adolescent, want to be friends with everyone, feeling like you're
Yep.
saying a bit more like independent, that can then lead to some negative experiences for the dog if they approach
Absolutely.
another dog. And
Especially
then,
for the boy dogs as well, because if
yeah,
they've got that testosterone going through them, they other dogs are going to smell that. So your puppy, who other dogs were really
yeah,
tolerant of before, suddenly is becoming this testosterone smelling bigger dog. That can cause
yes,
problems as well.
yeah. And they're stronger, so they're pulling owners. So the
Yeah,
owners are starting to feel like they're losing control of this once small dog. Now it's full of, like we say, all these hormones. Its brains differently, it's wiring up almost differently now. So the puppyhood stuff is so important for the lead up to adolescence. So we
yeah,
don't put those unwanted stuff in from as young as possible. But you can do all the right things with a puppy, and we all do. We all try our best. Then you can hit adolescent, and it really does go feel like you've gone backwards. And
yeah,
what I always say to people as well, please don't feel like you've done anything wrong and you're not
Yeah,
failing your dog, because people say to me, I must have done so much wrong. And I say, no, you didn't. This is just a normal thing that's going to happen. And now we can just start putting the right stuff in place just
yeah,
to help the dog through it and come out the other side, and you'll be marking the months off your calendar. But it's very, because like we said, the rescues, they're all going in, not all of them, but there's a big number now of this age group going through. And it's really sad
yeah,
because and I get it from both sides. The owners are at their wits' end, and they can't cope if they've, like you say, you've got children in the house and things are hard. Um, but that's why it's always good to talk to a trainer and get a trainer involved. I
yeah,
kind of reassure you that it's gonna pass. Um,
yeah,
I'll be honest. I found adolescence with Joey probably more tricky than puppyhood, and he's not even a big dog, but that's when I started noticing. When I think back now, he probably had a fear period, and that's when he had something might have just happened that I even missed with another dog, and it started that little fear off around other
yeah,
dogs. And that's where it all started. And he would react by barking and lunging at them and generally just feeling really uncomfortable. So I suppose the aim of this episode is to really get it across that it's normal, but also try and give you some tips of things that
yeah.
you can do.
Yeah, exactly that. It is normal, and how many things can be going on with them for boy dogs, the hormone surges, um, feeling braver, wanting to investigate for girls, wanting to investigate the hormone surges, but for girls going into season as well,
Oh yeah.
for both the fear periods. So it's a hell of a lot. It it's a lot, no matter which way you look at it. Same as for our teens, it's a lot going on, and they need our help. Yeah, so helping them through it, tips and things. I always think, as I said, be prepared to bring things back to basics. Have a read up on
Hmm.
adolescence when you get your puppy. I really do
Yeah.
wish that, and I wish all those years ago with George as well. I don't think there were the books out that we've got now. But if I'd have read some of the books that I knew about back then, I could have helped George a lot more because I did let him practice
Yeah.
behaviours that weren't ideal. A lot of our training went out the window. And then, of course, when he got to adolescence, he was going through every phase of going. Not only that, he was a big bully breed. So, and he
Yeah.
figured out pretty quickly, cool, if I want her to come with me, all I have to do is pull that way and she comes. This is brilliant. So, and it was
You ain't got a
everything going
chance.
on. Yeah. For
Yeah.
Lulu, our lab, I mean, she definitely had a fear period go on. She was adolescent and then she went into season, bless her.
Oh.
So yeah, and then she had a phantom pregnancy as well.
Oh
So we
wow.
saw
Yeah.
very, very skittish behaviour at times. Um, over the Christmas that she was going through adolescence, and that's when about 6 weeks later her season started. We went out for a walk, and literally she was bouncing about like the Grinch and barking. We were like, what is going on? And in
Yeah.
actual fact, that was where her season was kicking in. She just didn't know, being outside, she had so much processing. I think a dog went by. I mean, she's absolutely fine with dogs going by. She was back then, apart from this episode, and fine now. But I think it was just too much to process. And with all these
Yeah.
hormones, and she obviously wasn't feeling 100%. She was like, oh my
No.
God, this is complete overstimulation, overwhelm. And we had this dog going mad on the lead, and we'd only walked outside our house. So again, it wasn't her being naughty. And funnily
No.
enough, Lulu she's one of those dogs sometimes, if she's unsure or she needs reassurance, she kind of jumps, not even up at you, she just kind of jumps. And we have to
Yeah.
say to her, come on, Lulu, calm down, calm down. And we really saw that through adolescence in her fear period. And it's because she needs help, not because she's being naughty. It's because she doesn't know what to do. And she's like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
struggling. And that's what I mean
Yeah.
about the dogs aren't being naughty. They're not, they don't think like that.
No.
It's because they're struggling generally. We see behaviours that we find annoying. And yeah, it is annoying. We can't
Yeah.
help but
It's
feel
hard.
annoyed sometimes or frustrated,
Yeah.
but they need our help more than ever.
Yeah.
And I think,
Totally. And Go on. What was you saying?
No, yeah, no, just the owners looking at them and realizing body language, body language, body language. Know your own dog and their body
Yeah,
language. Um, so
that's
if you,
important.
yeah, it's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found one thing that helped with Joey when he was going through a bit of a when I first started noticing him obviously fearful of other dogs. And he's tiny, so I kind of
Oh,
get why he was so. And at the time, I
mm,
was dog walking, and he did come out on a few. I only did really small groups when I was a dog walker, so I took a couple of dogs out with him. But one of the dogs barked at him, and obviously, if he was going through a fear period, this was a big deal for him. You know, you've had
yeah,
this dog before, it was a big deal. So what I found really helped him, and we did it for a long time. Like obviously, my daughter Ella, it's kind of her dog, and she spent a lot of time with him, and she's done a lot of training stuff, bits and bobs with him. She
oh, bless
enjoys
her.
doing it. Um, but we used to take him to walks that were really relaxed and quiet for him.
Yeah,
It was just like, why are we going to put him in a busy place where he can't really cope at the moment? Like you say, he's got all these changes going on, and then I throw him in a place where he can't cope.
yeah,
So lucky where I live, behind where I live, I've got a big field, and also that goes on to like the Towers,
mm,
um, which is quite a quieter area than some of them around here because it's you have to pay to park and stuff, so it's a bit quieter. So we literally used to just take him on a line and let him do what he needed to do on the walk. We'd see a few dogs at a distance, and that I'm not joking, that really, really helped. It really
yeah,
started building that confidence again, and it started helping him enjoy walks again. So I think that can be a misconception sometimes when dogs are going through adolescence. People feel that you have to throw them in at everything, and it
yeah.
can
And
be the
again, it's that
worst.
socialization. People jump on it. Well, they've got to be socialized. In actual
Yeah,
fact, socialized and socialization does not mean throwing them in the deep end with things. Socialization is a lot of the time little tiny bite-sized things and at distances
yeah,
sometimes as well, and
yeah,
helping them to be able to process these things. I always say to my clients as well about adolescents, if they really they think their dog's struggling, um, bring things down. Make sure that any dogs they're
mm,
mixing with are dogs that they get on well with, dogs that they can be trusted around, so they have
mm,
their play. Don't throw them in with if they're looking a little bit anxious around that time or over brave. It's no good putting them in with dogs where you don't know what they're going to
no,
be like or where the other dog is going to get the ump with them. They don't need that kind of socialization around
no,
that
not
period,
at all.
especially.
No,
And I also say do fun walks, exactly what you've described there. Get them sniffing. If we can get them
yes,
sniffing, that releases all kind of things for them.
yeah,
Endorphins. It can it it react it helps them with their seeking behaviours in their brain. It releases, I can never say this, dopamine and things like that. Um, is it dopamine or
Is it
dopamine?
dopamine? Dopamine. Maybe we
Dopamine.
just say it different. Maybe we just say it different.
But if we can get that side of their brain, that seeking side of their brain, and release that, basically, it's a happy hormone. I should have said that. That
Yeah,
happy
makes them feel
hormone
good.
going, yeah, it'll make them feel good. We're also then on their walks, they're investigating. So we're feeding that investigative need that they want and things like that.
Mm,
That's absolutely fine. That is still socialization. Do you know what I mean? It's still getting them out in that big wide world and showing
yes,
them how they can relax in that big wide
yes,
world, that they can cope in the big wide
yes.
world without being trigger snapped because they're already processing so much anyway. Does that make sense the way I've explained that?
Yeah, totally. And I
Yeah.
totally everything you said, I agree. And I think mainly because I went through it with Joey, it gave me that kind of I've got that view on it because I knew I've now know what worked for him. I'm not saying it's for every dog, but
Mm,
because he was struggling with adolescence, then like you say, it was almost slowing everything down, letting him process. And what we used to do when we was out on a nice quiet field, we'd just do some really nice training stuff that he
yeah.
knew. So like we just practice stuff that he knew, just simple things like a hand touch or a middle or some stuff that he had already learn in the house. So he felt really confident with it. And we took that outside. Again, it helped with his confidence because he went, oh, I can do this. It feels
Yep.
good. And I've got rewarded for it. And again, building that relationship between us and him,
Yep.
strengthening that, not making him, but helping him focus on us, um, but using the positive ways of teaching him this stuff. But it builds that relationship with us. So even when he was out in the open, he was okay, he was on a line, so he couldn't run off, but he was interacting with us, if that makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having
It ticks
fun
so many
and
boxes,
enjoying it.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
It ticks all the
yeah,
boxes because I always say to people as well, with the bursts of training you do, again, all those years ago with George, I thought I'd had to do 20 minutes, half an hour training with him. He was a body breed. That was the last thing he wanted, both frustrated, especially around adolescence. That can be way
mm,
too much doing too much training. But if you're having fun whilst you're training, as
yeah,
you've just said, you're building your relationship, your dog's having fun, they're feeling good and they're getting rewarded and they're being trained as
yeah,
well. And
yeah.
again, like our kids, if they're having fun, they don't even know they're being trained.
No,
So we're
yeah,
ticking so many boxes. And like you say, and then to take your cues and practice your cues outdoors as well, we're also showing them that they can listen to mum, dad, family in the big outside world,
yeah,
concentrate, have fun, and your voice doesn't become something really boring. It's something that
no.
always worth listening to you. You're great fun and you reward me. So it just ticks all those boxes.
Yeah. And it's true what you said about teenagers. You know what it's like when they're going through that stage. They change and maybe they don't want to do things like with you that they used to. So they
Yeah.
don't want to go maybe to the cinema or want to go out for even dinner. I know with Ricky, he completely stopped wanting to do stuff with me. Um, he was more interested in his friends or his girlfriend, and that's
Mm,
fine. But then finding something he did want to do, that he enjoyed, we do it together. So yeah, it's what you've said there makes sense. And again, not every dog's the same. Some dogs may struggle to do
yeah.
any kind of training in that. But what I found, it just worked lovely for Joey. A nice quiet area. Like you said, I'd encourage him to sniff. We do a bit of scat feeding. Then
Yeah.
we'd do a little bit of fun training. Then we'd have another break.
Yeah.
And then he'd go home and he's had a run around on the line, and so he's had a bit of exercise, he's done a bit of mental stuff. He was exhausted and he'd had a positive experience on a walk.
Exactly. And that's what we want. We want them coming back from their walks. Anything around that time as well, like we're saying, they're over processing. Things can become more challenging for them, more fearful for them. But they come back from that walk feeling like, oh, I can really cope with that. I can cope with the outside
Yes.
world.
So it's confidence again. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
it was, I think that's something we haven't really touched upon, but I think confidence with adolescent dogs is the thing. If we can build their confidence, that's when we're going to see those changes. Um, and there's so much you can do for that, isn't there? Even things like
Exactly.
free work, and I found that that's been really good actually, free work. But there's so much, even like training in itself builds it. Some people do like little sporting activities and stuff to build confidence, but um, that's where it comes from. I think a lot of these anxieties that are seen sometimes as well is just the lack of confidence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I do like saying, I mean, this is a tip for our listeners as well, and I say this to my clients, and I do this when I go out. Um, Take a magic bag with you. So whether that's a little rucksack, your bum bag, I like big bum bags. You don't not massive, but so you can fit quite a bit in, but always have your treats,
Yeah,
and alternate them. If your dog has begun to go through adolescence, or they're not even adolescent, they've just for some reason not listening to you, um, go for something really smelly as those treats. But in that magic
yeah,
bag, some treats that they really like. Um, Alternate the toy you take in there. And I've always got stuff in my magic bag that they can use for sniffing, whether that be some little Tupperwares that I could put treats underneath to create a sniffy game, whether
yeah,
that be something in there for them just to sniff, like the rucksack walk. So we don't always do the same activities, but they know when I've got that magic bag,
yeah,
they think to themselves, what are we going to do today? So again, if your dog is in that stage where they're thinking, I'm with you, you're quite boring kind of thing,
mm,
I just want to go off and see this person, that person. Obviously, you do your recall and everything else. But if you've got that magic bag and you've reinforced enough that when you pull things out of that magic bag, whoa, there's great things in there and they never know what's going to come out, that can change the whole perspective of a walk. And sometimes even
Yeah.
just touching that magic bag when you think you need to get their attention, they're like, whoa, what's she going to pull out of
Yeah.
there today? So
That's a really good, yeah.
I love a magic bag.
That's a really, because I know you said the rucksack walk. That's the,
We should really explain that, shouldn't we? Yeah, Steve Mann's
yeah, that's
rucksack walk.
rucksack walk. But when you mention that, but it's not something I've done much with mine. Have you
Oh,
done
have
it
you
with
not?
yours?
Yeah, I have got a video. I'll have to I mean, if anyone wants to see it, it's on my Caninology VIP page. You do have to join it, but it's free to join. But basically, it's me doing it with three of our dogs. And it was in the
Oh,
lockdown, and I made my daughter Layla film it. It was over the park. And she was like, she was mortified. She's like, will you just hurry up doing this? There's her filming me. But all three of our dogs, there was George, there was Millie, and there was Lexi. Different
oh,
breeds, totally different personalities. But as I pulled out my magic bag and they were sniffing, all of them, there was people walking past us. I mean, obviously
yeah,
it was distance around that time, but there were still
yeah,
people where the dogs could see them. As I was pulling things out, all three of those dogs you can see on the video were like, well, she got out now. And they was all
yeah,
smelling things and things like that. So for me, I think it's absolutely brilliant. You can Google, of course, you can find Steve doing it on his YouTube and things like that. I think there's other people showing their videos as well now. But basically, the rucksack walk, just to explain to our listeners, is the way I do it, at least. I have a little Tupperware with some food for them to sniff that they can have a taste of, whether that be like a tiny bit of cheese or whatever. And you really make a moment out of each of these things that they investigate. It's your precious time together, and we really want them in that moment sharing it with you. So as you show them the Tupperware of treats, first of all, you open up the little Tupperware and say, oh, do you want to smell it? Do you want to smell it? Oh, wow. And you really get in that moment. So you can see now why Layla felt mortified filming me doing this. You wouldn't want anyone watching you, to be honest. You're like a nutter. Then when they've investigated that, that goes away. Then you'll pull out something that they can put their nose to and sniff again, but something not food. So maybe I've used a tea bag for my dogs. Obviously, dogs mustn't have tea bags, so you must make sure they don't get it. But you literally open the Tupperware just a tiny, tiny bit, and you're like, oh, do you want to smell that? Oh, smell that. So you're really in the
oh,
moment with them, and then that goes away. Then you pull out something they can put their nose to, but again, you don't give them it. So I've used one of my husband's protein shake spoons because that's not something they see every day. I've used a comb, a human comb, not a dog comb. So it was a little bit different to what they see. I've pulled an ornament off the wall before now that we bought abroad that was safe for them to put their nose to. They had like dangly bits on. I got it in Crete. Just so they could investigate that, put in their nose, you can like tap it if it's safe to tap. So they're really hearing things, seeing things, then that goes away. Then you'd have a game, but not something they're connected with, not a ball throwing game. So I like a tuggy toy, but have a swishy, a calm, swishy
yeah,
tug with them. And then that goes away. And then at the end of it, I use the food that I originally had and do a scatter food game and say, come on,
yeah,
find it, get them to look for those treats so that that brings everything back down to neutral again and calm. So, and
yeah,
believe it or not, this enriches the dogs, it calms them down, but it also kind of mentally wears them out as well because they're actually
yeah.
investigating. And again,
Really
makes your
investigating.
magic bag something that they're, whoa, are we going to do the rucksack walk today? Or have you got a different toy that you're going to pull out and show me today?
Mm,
So that magic bag becomes the focus point of your walk, basically, and makes
yeah,
you far more interesting and appealing than everything around, which can really help with adolescence.
yeah. And I think as well, because you're like you say, people throw a ball and the arousal levels go up, and the whole thing with throwing a ball, what it does to them. But when you're doing that rucksack, you're actually doing it with them. It's
Yep,
something you're doing with your dog. Again, it's building that relationship. That you're the good thing. Let's put it like that, simply. You're the good
exactly.
thing. This is the stuff that you produce for your dog, and this is the time. And that's another thing that we think, the world's busy, we're doing stuff. Do we spend enough times with our dogs? Just with our dogs? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
just doing something they like. Or say, for example, you go on a walk and if they're on a long line, just let them take the lead, like where they want to sniff and the stuff they want to do. And
Yeah,
again, I do it if my boys, we do different walks. We'll do off lead walks sometimes, I do on lead walks with them. Guys getting a bit older, so we do a bit more on lead. Um, but when we're walking down the road, they sniff everything and I let them sniff everything. And it's the
yeah,
same with the basset hound that I walk. He's lovely. Obviously, he's a basset. What is he amazing with? His nose. He's incredible. His nose is down. So when he stops at every little leaf, and I can really see him sniffing it, and he's, to be fair, he's just 2, so he's been going through the adolescent stage, and every little thing he sniffs, I can see him really enjoying it. I just go with him. If I've
yeah,
stood there for 5 minutes, I just go with him. So I think is a nice little thing to add in there, that remember when you take your dogs on a walk, you're walking them for them. As
yeah,
much as it's good for us, it gets us out, it's mental health, everything, fitness, like it's all good. But the biggest thing who it's going to benefit is your dog.
yeah,
So allow them to choose a little bit of, like, say if they're on a long line, let them kind of go where they want to, obviously
yeah,
within reason, not into a road or something. But um so it's that. And I think again that's just slowing walks down with
yeah,
adolescent dogs,
yeah.
slowing it down and letting them, again, I think I say this to puppy owners with the puppies, but it's the same with adolescents, let them process stuff, like you said, let them
Exactly. And the
stop,
thing
let
is,
them watch.
if you let them and they are processing, and like you've been saying about the long line sometimes, and you'll say to them, "Right, where are we going then?" and let them guide you, we're giving
Mm,
them choices. So they're not getting
yeah,
frustrated. So again, around
no,
adolescent time, we're trying to avoid making them frustrated in whatever area. That can really help because when they're with you, they think, well, do you know what? When I'm with them, it's fine because mum, dad, the
yeah,
family, whoever, they let me go and investigate that. They let me do
yes,
that. Whereas a dog who isn't allowed to do all of that stuff, chances are they're going to be one of the ones, if they have got this where they've got that need that to want to roam at that stage, they're more likely just to go off and roam the minute they're off the
yeah,
lead because we're not letting them do that. They're frustrated when they're with us. They find with us being boring.
they're
So it's
restricted, aren't
important
they?
to give them obviously managed choices, but choices.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
do
yeah,
find with dogs, when we give them those managed choices, I wouldn't say controlled choices, but managed choices, they make
yeah,
better choices as well.
yeah. And it's great because you watch them. I had a puppy at classes yesterday. She loves all the other dogs, loves them, really, really loves them. She was a bit tired and she hadn't slept much. So she was a little bit, up there. Um, at one point it was lovely. I just said to her owner, just she was looking at the other dogs and I said, just give her a minute, let her process it. She done probably 10 seconds, not even that, and then went back to her mum and carried
Mm,
on doing what she was doing. She needed that time just to stand there without being pulled away and told, no, come on.
exactly.
um, and yeah, oh gosh, it's so important. Like I said, when Walter was, that's it that I walk, he was going through adolescence. I found for him, again, what you said, if I let him almost, when he wanted to sniff something, I allowed him to do it. He don't feel frustrated with me
Yeah,
because he knows that if he wants to go and have a little sniff of that leaf, I'm going to take him there, or I'm going to let him take. I say take him there, and then he's going to get the time that he wants there. I'm not
yeah,
going to be pulling him away. Um,
exactly.
so I know it's different. There's times like you're in the middle of a road or something, you'd have to pull your dog away and get them out of the road. I'm saying in general, when you're out on a walk and they want to stop and they just want to sniff and
Yeah,
stuff, if that really needs to be out there more, just to
yeah,
allow your dogs to do that.
definitely, definitely.
And it helps with adolescent stuff.
Yeah. Again, I mean, another tip that I do say to my clients is if they're out for a walk, I mean, if you've got, I mean, my husband, I like a walk, I like my dog walk. My husband likes dog walk, but he likes his own walk as well.
Mm.
So I think if you're the type of person where you just want to walk whatever, you don't want to keep stopping, maybe consider doing separate walks with your dog. So you're both
Yeah.
getting the benefit. But like you've said, we have to remember some dogs, I mean, they only go out for one walk a day.
Mm,
So this is their enrichment. They need to
mm,
investigate that outside world. They need to get all the information. And the more you're in that moment with them, the better your relationship is. So a tip I always give my clients as well, try not to be on your phone. Your dog
yeah.
knows
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're just completely disinterested. Same as at the park, I see people just let their dogs off and then they're on their phones or whatever. Some haven't got a Scooby-Doo what their dogs are up to either.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your dog is then not connected with you
No.
at all. Your dog
No.
isn't having fun with you. Why would they listen to someone who isn't connected with them? You're not doing
Yeah.
anything with your dog. And it makes it all the more likely that if your dog is going through that phase where they want a free roam or whatever, in their heads,
They're going to
well,
do it.
it's more fun over there. I'm going to go over here and see what's going on there or sniff that because you won't let me. So, yeah,
Yeah.
try and if you can make it so the walk ticks all of the areas for both of you, great. But if you're thinking, no, I don't want to keep stopping, I want to be on my phone, consider doing separate walks with your dog because
Mm.
it won't do your dog any good. It won't.
No. No. And it's just going to, how are they going to enjoy it? I
Mm,
love when I've taken my boys out and they've had a little bit of a run. So they've had, dogs need exercise. They do. They've
mm,
had a nice little run. Guy, like I said, just managing his exercise a bit better because of his arthritis. And then they've done a nice bit of sniffing and they've enjoyed it. And then I come home and they just chill out. It's
yeah,
lovely. And
yeah,
then I think, oh, they've enjoyed that. They're fulfilled. I can get on and do what I need to get on and do now. But I've given them
yeah,
that time to do what they need to do. And I found what I find as well is the lead pulling can get worse for dogs during adolescence.
exactly. Where they're over processing, they can smell
Mm,
other dogs, the hormones coming off of some dogs. Yeah. So
mm,
again, make the walks so that your dog's set up to succeed, not fail. So,
yeah,
what I mean by that is if your dog at the moment is over processing, don't go walking them through a busy town centre where it's dog central and
no,
things like that. And their
no,
noses are going absolutely mad. Do nice not challenging, nice sniffy games, nice calming sniffy games and things like that. But over the park where it's quiet and they can cope, don't do it for a town centre and things like that.
no.
You're just setting them up to fail completely.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think as well, something I always say to owners is just obviously it's not solving lead walking, but just like a little thing, like give them a bit of a longer lead where you can.
Yeah,
That's so
absolutely.
important because I do see it a hell of a lot where dogs are on the smallest leads, tightest lead, or the owner tightens the lead a lot.
Yeah,
And again, all that leads to is that frustration. Because
yeah,
all the dog wants to maybe is just move slightly away from you just because they want to sniff something.
yeah,
And then again, they're not being allowed. So I always kind of rough idea I say to people is like a 6 foot lead. And if you are on a street or near a road, you can just yourself make it smaller when you need to. But if you're walking through a park or you're walking somewhere, just let them have the full length of that lead
yeah,
so they can do what they need to do. And training is important with loose lead walking. Of course it is. There's lots of methods that we teach our clients and stuff to help them teach their dogs to walk nicely with a loose lead and stuff. But that moment when they're going through adolescence, I would say giving them more of that loose lead is going
yeah.
to prevent that frustration. So they're getting that little bit of what they need. They are genuinely going to be better on the lead if they're getting that what they need. So that's a tip I say to everyone.
Exactly, definitely, absolutely. It's made me just think of one of my clients actually. This is years ago now, but we met over the park for recall training, and she had a puppy, and the pup was 5.5 months old, little pup. She's a little breed, and anyway, we were doing the recall. Our meeting the week before our recall was really, really on point. And then this week it was out the window. And
Yeah.
and this is what I mean, really know your dog because this was
Mm.
because I knew this puppy, we'd been doing some recall and I was like, this is really like extreme with her. And then I said, like, is she been feeling okay at home? She said, yeah, she's been fine. Maybe like a bit skittish, but put that down to her being a pup. Anyway,
Yeah.
she could not recall, could not. So in the end, I said to her owner, do you know what? We're going to leave the session today because we're setting her up to fail. Just take her
Yeah.
home, let her decompress, and we'll have to look at what went wrong. Let's see what happens next time. Anyway, the next day I got a phone call and it was really, really funny. And her human mum said to me, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. So I was like, what? What's happened? She
Yeah.
said, yesterday, Eve, must have been 2 days ago that I'd seen her. So yesterday I got a call from the daycare. Now this daycare were very, very good. And they said they'd watched her dog. So rather than punishing her dog, what they were seeing as
Yeah.
possibly being naughty, they rang her and said, can you come and get her? She's she's gyrating up against all the boy dogs at daycare. She never usually
Right.
does that.
Hmm.
Um, so her owner was like, and they had a 13-year-old boy dog there. So the daycare said, we're worried about her giving him a heart attack the way that she is. Can you come and get
Oh,
her?
bless.
So she went and got her. Anyway, that evening she went into season. She'd gone into season very, very early.
Ah.
And that was the reason why. Well, one, she's gyrating up against all the boy dogs, but that's why over the park she could not concentrate because obviously we was in an open space, but
Yeah.
she could smell the boy dogs that were a distance away and she could not process. She could not listen to us. We got her
No.
through her season, went back to basics with the recall again, and she was fine. So yeah,
Yeah.
know your dog. There's always a reason for their behaviour, and it wasn't her. We could have carried on for another half an hour, done the full session that day. Why would we have done that to her? When
Oh, I know.
do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? She would have got
Yes.
frustrated. We were frustrated. That would
Yeah.
have been a pointless session. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's best just to leave where you are. We done a sniffy game with her and then they went on their way
Mm.
kind of thing. So sometimes it's best just to think, no, there's something going on here, whether that be
Yeah.
coming into season, maybe they're in pain, not well. We were pretty sure that she was okay, but we couldn't figure out. So we ended the session that day just to see how she went. As I say, yeah, then she got the call from the daycare, which she was thoroughly embarrassed about, but she was then relieved that she did go into
Yeah.
season. But
Yeah. 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 There was a reason for it, but then it's like you're
Mm,
saying, like when they're going through those changes, and obviously coming into season for a dog is a huge change. So learning can't happen usually when stuff like
no.
makes it really difficult for them to learn. And like you said there, you touched on the daycare that you weren't going to punish her for the stuff that was happening, the behaviors that she was showing. Um, so I think that's quite a good point to say that, was to talk about. Just obviously we've said about helping your dogs, and that's the best thing you can do, but obviously try not to lead down that road of punishment when they're doing this stuff,
Yeah,
because I know
yeah,
it can be really, really testing, really challenging. That's what I mean. If people are popping their dogs into rescues, rehoming because they cannot cope anymore, that does show how hard it can really be. Um,
yeah,
but punishment is actually going to make things worse
yeah,
than better. And
yeah,
and people don't sometimes understand that, because they'll say, well, I've told the dog off, or I've put the dog away, or whatever I've had to do, it stopped. The dog stopped doing it. But really all you're doing is kind of crushing that all that
yeah.
stuff that's
You're just
going on in
suppressing
them.
a behaviour. You're not
Yeah,
actually helping the dog from the root cause of what they need help with. You're just stopping them dead in that behaviour, but
yeah.
you haven't helped that dog. You haven't made that
No,
dog feel better about a situation or how
no,
to deal with a situation. And
no.
again, you can then have problems later down the line.
Yeah. So you just crushing all of that, like you say, you're not supporting them. They feel
Mm,
like they've done something wrong. They don't know what it is because their
mm,
bodies are changing.
mm.
Um, I think that's a really important point to make. Because I know it can be frustrating. We can get to the end of our tether. But if you have to, take a break, go out,
Exactly.
go out or see if someone can look after them for a couple of hours. I think if you think about, and I know we shouldn't always refer, but I do refer back to kids, because what do they say with dogs? Is it like they have the average sort of intelligence of a 2 to 3 year old child?
Yeah, yeah.
So I do think of them as that sometimes, because you wouldn't punish your child for doing something wrong like that, would you? So
Exactly.
it's, if anything, you'd have a babysitter for the night, you'd go out and you'd just, you'd have that bit of a break to recharge your batteries.
Decompress. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
completely.
I think that's always, I always say to people, if you've got family or friends you can lean on, just, I mean, I had to do it with Joey when he was younger, but it was mainly for when I was working. But my sister would have him for a couple of hours, and
Yeah,
if they can be left, even if you just got to go out in the garden for 10 minutes and give yourself a breather,
yeah,
um, just trying to have that kind of self control of yourself, and just remember, like you say, this will pass, and they're struggling. And I think
yeah,
that's just really important, and also to make people aware of this does happen for most dogs.
yeah,
So
exactly.
again, just a bit sort of getting the heads up and saying,
Mm,
getting prepared for it and being ready.
yeah,
And if you're already working with a trainer, stay in contact,
yeah,
stay on board with them. If you're not, find a nice reward-based trainer that can um kind of give you some tips and help you. And I think
exactly
just
that.
having that like support from a trainer makes you feel better anyway.
It is, yeah. Support from a trainer, your support network around you, knowing things that you can do to help your dog, um, calming enrichment stuff, licky mat, snuffle mat, find what works for your dog, being prepared to go back a stage. Um, yeah, just all of that and knowing they're normal, knowing this is a
Yes.
phase and it's normal and it will pass. And the
Mm.
worst thing you can do though is to start looking down the aversive route, punishing them because they're not actually being naughty. They need your help
No.
more than ever. They really, really do. And they depend on
Mm.
us at the end of the day. Who have
Yeah,
they got if they
everything.
can't depend on us? And around this period as well, they can be very sensitive, some more than others. You certainly don't want to be damaging your relationship with your dog. You really,
No,
really don't.
no, it's bad
So,
time to do that. It
yeah,
won't
yeah,
be long lasting, and yeah, tricky to reverse if you're doing it, especially through that period. I think shouldn't be happening at all. But when they're at their most, they're at their most vulnerable, I would say, at that point, aren't they?
yeah,
They
yeah,
really are. And it can be as simple as management in times like this as well. So if your dog is doing something like going in the kitchen and counter surfing, or just these little things that crop up, maybe put a gate up or post a door.
yeah.
Or my guy, he's a little monkey for going down the bin, so he can't have access to the bin, and he's 11.
Mm, mm,
But it's definitely management is part of it. You obviously need to change some things sometimes, but
yeah.
management with like the long lines. And I think we did have a question in from somebody about this, about
Mm,
recall, like when the lady asked when what to do with recall when their dog's distracted meeting other dogs, people, when their dog is bouncy. Now I'm not sure if the dog was adolescent, but it probably probably is with those issues.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, again, it's just if your recall's not up to scratch, keep them on a long line.
Keep
That's
them
what
on,
I
like,
would
use
say.
distance again. Practice your recall so they can cope. So if
Yeah.
they can't focus on you because there's too much going on around, go back to using space and then gradually increase your distance. So when they're recalling to you with no distractions around, then go over the park and practice your recall whilst they're on a long line at a distance from someone. If that goes really, really well, maybe try again the next day and then reduce that distance a bit, but set them up to succeed, not fail. That would be my advice with that. And don't expect
Mm.
too much too soon. If that lady's dog is adolescent, then they're probably over processing.
Yeah. And also again, like we were saying, like meeting people and dogs that if they're bouncy and stuff, they are going to be like that through this period. But
Yeah.
then
And
maybe
again,
reduce that meetings.
yeah, reduce the meetings and give them distance. And
Mm.
then make yourself far more appealing. So practice walking past people at a distance and doing a look at me and rewarding
Mm.
them as you go by or playing a game. Make sure you do something to make yourself more appealing. Because as well,
Yeah.
I think sometimes I feel sorry for our dogs as well, because again, they're set up to fail and you can't do anything about this. But sometimes they're walking past dogs and it's a close pavement and they might be really, really good sometimes. And the owner will then say to me, well, why was it they want to see that dog there? But the other dog could blatantly be inviting them over as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you've got an adolescent dog and if that dog does smell really, really nice and they're really, really close, your dog then thinks, well, they're inviting me over as well. Why can't I get over to them? So
Mm,
sometimes using that bit of distance and making yourself more appealing, don't set
mm,
them up to fail by walking really, really close by with people where they are going to be over processing or getting overwhelmed
yeah.
or so
Yeah.
yeah, just think about think about the logistics of your training as well. That'd be my advice on what your dogs can
Mm,
cope with and practice at distances they can cope with. And then when you've managed to get their attention at that distance, then you start reducing the distance. But you do it
yeah.
really, really gradually, little bite-sized pieces. You don't then think, right, well, they're walking past, so I'm going to try walking right next to that person.
No.
Do it gradually. Do it gradually, but
Yeah.
as I say, make yourself more appealing. Again, I find the magic bag can come in handy for things like this.
Yeah.
Because as you're
Yeah.
walking past, you can get a treat out and say, look at me. And what you're showing
Yeah.
then is, despite there being another dog over there, or you could play, I like, again, the ready, steady, get it game. That's just where you say, ready, steady, get it, and you drop a treat or something. So as you're going past people or whatever it is, do something so that their focus is on you. So with enough
Yeah.
practice and repetition, another distraction means, well, I don't need to go and investigate that or do that. Great things happen when there's other things going by with mum, dad, or the family. So that would be my
Yeah.
advice there.
And you know what? You just made me think because that kind of pattern games. So you could learn about how to do
Yeah.
pattern games, but pattern games. And I know when Walter, like the Basset, I've been looking after him since he was about one. So I've literally, and he's recently turned two. So I've gone through that adolescent stage with him. And I literally had to teach him things like one, two, three. And then on the
Mm.
third one, he would get the treat. And I did do a ready, steady, go because he has a amazing, he loves other dogs, bless him. He really, really, he's the friendliest boy ever. But we get those behaviors sometimes where he'll sit down and he'll go, I'm not moving. And he's a big boy. And he's like, I'm not moving. I can see a dog coming up behind us. And we're on a pavement. And I'm like, so I don't want to pull him, if I don't have to. I
No.
don't want to pull him. So I've kind of taught him the ready, steady, go. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know
Yeah.
this.
It's
So it,
perfect for that. Absolutely perfect for things like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And it's
You're
just
making
doing
a
it.
fun game out of them moving, but you're also making yourself more appealing to them. So they don't have
Yeah.
to go and practice that behaviour. In actual fact, we're playing a game and they're getting a treat. And if you are throwing the treat, they're getting a sniff to go and get it as well. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah. So they
ticking
get the
so many
chase.
boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
chase,
many
the sniff.
boxes.
I think that's a lovely little thing that you said there, though, about those little bits that you can do. I think it's just being consistent. That's why it's so good to have a trainer because they can give you all these ideas, you
Yeah,
know.
and sometimes it is just that little kind of tip where you think, "Do you know what, that really works for my dog in this situation. And it can
Mm,
change everything. So yeah,
yeah.
well, I think that
I think
we've
we've covered
kind of covered.
adolescence.
Yeah. Well, we really hope you liked our episode on adolescence today and it was helpful for you all. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to follow us. And if you want to, you can even leave a review. So we're back a couple of weeks after this one, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, and we're going to have lots of more interesting things to discuss. We're going to have our guests on as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
we
Looking
hope you'll
forward to it.
tune in again soon. Bye from me, and
Bye
we'll
from
see you
me.
soon. Bye.